Hey guys, welcome to the next part in our GitLab HA series video here today. So in this part, we will be configuring the Redis cache for GitLab HA. So this will be doing the caching. It'll be a primary replica kind of topology on how it's set up, and it should hopefully be pretty simple. So let's get started and we'll show you how you can do it. All right, so continuing the configuration, now we're under the configure Redis stuff. So we'll do again a 3 node, which is required in here because it needs to be an on number. We got our service set up, so all nodes should be able to talk over things, and we got our 3 nodes here. You can, if you decide you want to opt for doing a third-party instance like Elasticache or Memory Store, you definitely can do that too, but we'll be going through using the Omnibus version of this. So taking a look at here, we'll need to set up a Redis password as well. So what we'll do here is let's go back to our notepad with passwords here, and we will regenerate and create a new password real quick so that we can use that. And then I think for the most part, this is pretty much self-explanatory. There really isn't too much to it. The one thing with the configuration is there is a different configuration for primary versus the replica nodes, but the only difference in the config is really if I have to remember, the bind IP in here. So this is because you want to bind it for the local IP address of the machine, but in this case, we're just going to do 000 to make the configuration a lot easier and more dynamic in our home lab. So essentially, we'll be doing the same configuration for both the primary and the replicas because we won't be hard coding the IPs. We'll just be opening it up so that it can talk to each other. So to get started, we will go and update the roles here. So let's take a look here. So here we go. So we'll add another conditional here. So else if Redis in inventory hostname, then we will have essentially these roles. So let's copy and paste that in here. So it will do the Redis Sentinel, Redis master role, and console role. And actually, now that I think about it, they actually do have 2 different roles. So we'll actually need to separate this between the replica and master. So what we'll do here, so we actually named it, we'll do the master being Redis 1, and then we'll do elif Redis 2 in inventory hostname, or Redis 3 in inventory hostnames. Inventory hostname, and we will essentially do the other role for the replica role. So yeah, I totally forgot about the roles. So the roles plus the bind, so you'll have 2 separate ones depending on if you're a master or a replica node. So we got those 2 in there, and then we can go through the rest of this. So we'll need to go find the Sentinel bind, and we'll uncomment that. And then for the rest of these, we can just do if Redis in inventory host name, so we don't actually, the rest of the configuration we don't need to worry about. And if, then we got to find the quorum. Quorum is currently set to 1, but we want it to be set to 2. So if Redis in inventory host name, and we'll set this to 2. And then we want the bind, and this is what we'll set to essentially be 000. So this is what it's set to. So if Redis in inventory host name, and bind on 000, then we got the Redis port. So we actually just copy this and put it within the if, so we don't have to make another if statement. Redis port. This is commented out for the primary because we will be using port of a primary, uncommon to change non-default ports. Okay, because we're going to use the default ports, we don't have to worry about that in the slave. configuration. So next is the Redis password. So we'll copy this also and put it back in the if statement. And this will be the password that we generated. There's no hashing in regards to this. This is just another plain text in here. So you can use Ansible Vault to cover, not have hard-coded IPs in your code. And then same thing over here. If Redis in inventory hostname and if, and then we'll copy and paste the password. So the password for the master is going to be the same as the password. So we're going to just copy and paste that. Make sure we uncomment this. Oh. Redis. And then the master name, we'll make sure it's set to GitLab Redis up. So we can scroll up here. So if Redis in inventory hostname and if, and we'll just uncomment that. Then we got the master IP, so we can move this up as well. We'll move this into the if statement. And the master IP will be our node 1. And I can't remember if I could use DNS, but I think I might have to actually use the IP. So we'll just use the IP for now, but you can test out the DNS too. So we can take a look here, and our Redis node for Redis node 1 will be this IP. So we can add that in here. Make sure you bracket it, quote it correctly. And then we got your default stuff that we have for other machines that we've set for the discovery service. So in this case, we'll just add it, or Redis in inventory hostname, as well as the configuration for console. So we'll just add this in here as well, or Redis in inventory hostname. And then we got the node exporter and the Redis exporter to make sure those bind addresses are right as well. So let's take a look. This one also is another one. Actually, I'm surprised that actually didn't error out because I didn't have a space. Or Redis in inventory hostname. And then we'll do the Redis exporter, which wouldn't already be set because this is just for Redis. If Redis in inventory hostname and if, and we want to set this to 0000, so it listens on all. And then we want to just, make sure GitLab Rails doesn't do any migrations unintentionally. So, or Redis in inventory hostname. And that should be essentially it. So let's save that. Configure Redis. And we can commit that. And let's just take a quick look. So we got that, and then we got the configuration changes. So let's double check the replica now. So we got replica in there, got the bind address, quorum stuff, more bind, passwords, master IP, which we did actually have up here, right? Yep, master IP. And then monitoring, console, networking. So the rest of the configuration looks good besides essentially the roles, and if you were to actually set the bind outside of 000. So now we can do a GitLab reconfigure and run through the steps. There doesn't look like there's any post steps in regards to it, but we'll just do a GitLab CTL status just to make sure it's up and running as well after it is done. So let's go and run the Ansible playbook to set it up, and then we should be golden. So GitLab Redis 1, GitLab Redis 2, GitLab Redis 3, and we will let it... Why did it fail? Error. Missing revision due to failed project update. Oh. Why did the project update fail? Come on. Let's take a look here. It failed. Let's just resync it. Give it a second. It could have just failed because it does. Oh, it could be the collections. There's a weird thing where their Ansible Galaxy collections, their site doesn't always work that well, so it would fail on that. But it's okay. GitLab HA, and we'll run it. So GitLab Redis 1, GitLab Redis 2, and GitLab Redis 3. and we will watch it launch and run. So it'll go through actually at the GitLab repository, install GitLab, reconfigure, upload the new configuration file for the GitLab RB, and then do a GitLab reconfigure as well as a GitLab restart to make sure everything picks up. So once that is done, we'll get to that part of the video, and I'll show you. We'll just double check and validate it is running. So. All right, now it finished loading everything, which is great because essentially I didn't have a syntax error, which is what we want to see because those were always the worst to see. But we'll log in here real quick, and we'll just do a GitLab CTL status to make sure. So we got console, the node exporter, Redis exporter, and Sentinel. So the Redis stuff is configured and up and running, and there's no more other things to configure for Redis. So we should be all set with that. So next to go for the next video here will be our Gitly cluster, which will consist of 3 Gitly nodes, 3 perfect nodes, 1 perfect database, and then the load balancer, which we already did at the very beginning. So we'll probably have at least 2 other videos. I don't know if I'm going to do the perfect node and the perfect database separately or in the same video. We'll see. So anywho, this is it for the Redis setup. So if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.